Join On the Sofa with Esther for an Easter Monday special as she chats with Cornelius Grant, the legendary musical director, guitarist, and songwriter for The Temptations. He'll be sharing stories from his iconic career, the legends he's worked with, and giving us an exclusive preview of his upcoming book. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across the globe. Welcome to On the Sofa with Esther. Joining me today, I have Cornelius Grant. And we're going to be talking about a man who shaped the sound of The Temptations. From his guitar riffs to his live show arrangements, his influence is undeniable. We'll explore his journey from his early days to his pivotal role with one of music's most iconic groups. Welcome, Cornelius Grant.
Top of the evening.
Always a pleasure to see you, Cornelius, and you're looking really fine. You're looking mighty fine. Loving the blue.
Oh, for 80 years old, 81 years old, not bad, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, without further ado, as you know, Cornelius, I like to ask my guests, is Cornelius Grant in a nutshell, in a peanut shell, or a crab shell? If you had to use 3 words to describe yourself, what would they be?
I would say it's a story of a young kid born in the South and without no formal music training, rose to the level of becoming a conductor, musical director, guitarist, and finally songwriter to the #1 R&B group in the world, The Temptations.
Brilliant. That's a great coconut shell. So what we're going to do now, we're going to tunnel down because you've got a book coming out soon that's going to tell it all, tell it all about your life, about your journey with Motown, about your journey with the Temptations. And I am looking forward to that. So this interview is going to give people just that nugget of insight into your life. So my first question to you, Cornelius, is, what led you to join Motown and how did you first connect with the Temptations?
Well, it came about because of Henry Cosby, who was already a producer with the company that was to become Motown. It was just Hitsville at that time. He was a substitute saxophone player in the band that I played in. And that's how we met. And so, ironically, between sets, I didn't know he wrote arrangements. Between sets, he was writing an arrangement in pencil. And the top of the arrangement, it said hitchhike.
Mm.
And I said, hitchhike? I kind of laughed. I said, hitchhike? He said, yeah, this is going to be a good song. I didn't realize at the time I was witnessing some of Marvin Gaye's original repertoire.
Wow. Wow. And
that's how we met.
That's how you met. Fantastic. Yeah. And then, can you describe the atmosphere of Motown during its golden era?
Well, Motown, it was like a melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
Of all of the artists, local artists and musicians, in the area. And they would all come, Mary provided a venue where everybody sort of come together, and, just prove that they could do whatever they could do. They could write songs or, music. And in the process of the melting pot, that's when the Funk Brothers were formed. And it was a nerve center.
Mm. And I remember talking to you, I think it was 2 years ago when I was in LA, and you mentioned, the melting pot. And what struck out for me about that conversation that we had was when you said, there was that friendly competition amongst yourselves, but you were also supporting each other to become the best. And so tell us a little bit more about some of the conversations that went on around that, Cornelius.
Well, Barry created a competitive attitude, among the songwriters. And So even though it was competitive, but it was like a family, you know, so it wasn't vicious, but it was like who was going to strive to come up with the best song or the best production. And, you know, it evolved, it grew into what would become Motown. You know,
Brilliant.
and,
Brilliant, brilliant. And, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to find out what went on behind the scenes, the book is going to say it all. And I know I'm dangling it in front of my audience like a carrot, but I can't wait to read your book as well. And what was it like working under Berry Gordy's leadership? I mean, you've touched on that briefly, but in terms of, I surmise you had to be disciplined as well. There were so many things that with Berry Gordy that inspired and encouraged perfection, would you say?
oh yes, well, Barry, who had originally was a songwriter, right? So when he became like a tutor for the young songwriters, so he really uh, wanted perfection, and he wanted the songs to tell a story because he when he met Smokey Robinson was like a poet. He wrote a lot of poems, and Barry saw in his writing, you know, these poems. It's like, hey, he was good at putting poem together, but he showed him how to make it into a story. And so, you know, he make it like a beginning and an ending and a, you know, and a middle. And he tutored Smokey in that respect. And so that's what got, because the reason that Smokey became such a prolific songwriter.
Wow. Wow.
Under Barry's tutorship.
Thank you. And, who were some of your biggest musical influences as a guitarist and as a composer?
Well, in the beginning, I grew up in the South in Texas. So I grew up listening to the blues players like B.B. King and Gatemouth Brown and John Lee Hooker. So they influenced my playing, you know. So that was before I ever came to Detroit. When I came to Detroit, I began to play. And I was playing at nightclub at age 15.
Wow.
And so my blues influence, you know, kind of played into my playing. So I guess that's why the older musicians, they liked my playing because they were saying, this young guy, he plays the blues like, you know, like an older musician. But it was because I was already influenced by B.B. King and those guys. You know, I grew up in the South.
And you played a key role in shaping the Temptations, that you, in terms of their sound. What was your approach to composing and arranging music for them?
Well, because the group were from the South and they had gospel type of overtones in their singing. So the songs that I provided to them was more gospel type, bluesy type, and except for so Smokey's things were like he was singing like you know, love songs and that kind of stuff. And but when I did songs like Losing You, it was like a gospel flavor, and it played right into you know, the group's performance.
And you touched on Smokey Robinson. Can you remember any memorable recording sessions that particularly stand out in your mind?
Well, the particular recording session that stands out in my mind was the first production that Roger Pensabene and I did in relation with the Funk Brothers. Because up until that time, we were mostly writing songs and doing lyrics, but we had the opportunity to do a production along with the Funk Brothers, and that was more exciting because we planned to become the next songwriting team. the Harlem Doja Holland. So we had, high hopes in that. So that stands out in my mind because it was the first time we were like the producer of the music along with the Front Brothers. So it was very exciting.
Excellent, excellent. And how do you feel being in the industry at such a young age? How do you feel that honed you as a person, Cornelius? Because I'm sure that starting from a young age and being around all these incredible legends, or you say cats, right? All these incredible cats. But how did, starting early influence you in particular?
Well, because of the way Barry created the competition,
Mhm.
with the songwriters and whatnot, it really instilled in me the strive for protection,
Mm.
perfection in me, and songwriting. So I was influenced by me being able to work with uh, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, who was a genius, young genius at the time. It really influenced me, and so it gave me a lot of insight, a lot of inspiration.
Mm.
Because being with people like that, it was really amazing. Was being with people like, say, like Marvin Gaye, who was a genius. It influenced me very much. And also, because I was his first guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, he instilled a lot of insight in me because I remember at the beginning, he came to me and he said, "Listen, I need a guitar player and a conductor. I can't pay both." you know. So that really inspired me. I was like, but wait a minute, I don't know anything about conducting. But because he instilled that in me, to become a conductor, uh, I went to Grinnell's and bought a book on conducting. And so that's how I got into the conducting part. It was
Fantastic.
his influence. And later on, it became, very important because when I got with the Temptations, it was a natural transition for me to conduct and play guitar. I was just hired as a guitar player, but I
Mm.
had the experience of conducting at Marvin Gaye's urgings. So it was a natural thing for me to like play and conduct.
Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. I just love that because I think I remember briefly that story. You said you didn't know anything about it, but you went and bought a book and you showed up. And I guess those are all the things that were instilled in you at the time. Fantastic. Right? And looking back at your career, what do you consider your proudest achievement as a composer and musician, Cornelius?
Uh, well, I would have to say the most popular song that I created was "I Know I'm Losing." I always make the joke, say, because that song keeps me Snicker bars, because that song, along with You're My Everything, was part of the play. Ain't Too Proud to Play, and the play is still touring, so I still get residual.
Yeah, I saw that I think 2 or 3 years ago in the UK. So
Yeah,
it was a good show. It was definitely a good show. And
even You're My Crown and Glory.
sorry, that's
That's,
your
that's a Crown and Glory, yeah.
brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And how do you feel about the continued influence of Motown and the Temptations music on artists today?
Well, uh, first of all, let me say I'm proud to be a part of the dream that Barry had.
Mm.
Because Barry Gordy had a dream of creating artists and music that would be influenced by all ethnic groups. And I think he succeeded in it. So that's why even today the music goes on and on because it's all ethnic groups. Because of Barry's influence, trying to create kind of music that would be accepted by all ethnic groups. I think Motown music, that's why it still sustains today.
Mm. And, as part of the Temptations and your tenure with them, who are some of the other groups that, other than, and the Funk Brothers, who you've mentioned a couple of times, but who are some of the other groups and artists other than Berry Gordy and Smokey, but who were some of the other artists that inspired you?
Well, of course, I was inspired by Stevie. He was young, but he had a kind of a old vibe, and so I would say for Stevie, and of course Miracles, because Smoker's writing. I was very impressed with that. But I was able to do songs from other artists like Gladys Knight Phillips and Evan Starr, people like that.
And winding down, can you give us a little insight into when the book will be coming out? Because this interview has just given people a taste of the incredible journey that you've had as a musician, not just with the Temptations, but in your own right as well. And I am so curious, is it sometime this year, next year? I don't want to put pressure on you, Cornelius.
Well, first of all, I'm very excited about the book. And what's really impressive is the writing of Miss Haiti.
Deborah Hayter, call her out.
because she's phenomenal. And I think her version of the writing really speaks really my mind. She put in words like what I have in my mind. So we're winding it up. And,
my girl.
Looking forward to it.
I guess maybe it goes with the song "My Girl," isn't it? Cornelius working with Deborah Hayter, "My Girl."
Yeah, I really don't hesitate to mention her because she's a very instrumental formation of the group.
Brilliant. Well, I want to say thank you for your time. And I'm so looking forward to coming to the States again to do an extended interview with yourself, because I know there's so much more that, you're this walking historical musical guitar masterpiece. And just looking forward to, the book, but also spending more time and finding out more about the gentleman, Cornelius Grant. Thank you so much for your time, Cornelius. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to click the bell icon for notifications on future videos. Thank you for watching.